be saving newspapers or saving us from newspapers? Because the perception of newspapers in this country is that the news is so bad and that the way it is reported is bad. And basically this is because the structure of media ownership in this country is mostly government linked. It's either directly, well, not directly owned, but it's government linked companies or businesses linked to government.
Yeah, there must be a competition between the newspapers. The obvious competition that some people are really struggling hard to be better than the other newspaper on the market, and they not only look slightly better when it comes to colors and logo, but they really have a different concept of presenting news. When I look at your newspapers, even though they look differently, because they have different fonts, different formats, different logos and colors, it's kind of like when I go through this, flip through this, they look very similar when it comes to page composition and the rhythm in the newspaper.
Right.
You just divide the page into 3-4 texts, and you just go through 50 pages, and everything looks kind of the same. Yeah.
Right.
So like there's no hierarchy of the news for me there. I don't feel what is really important, what is not. It seems like the decision of the editor, which is his responsibility, to digest the news for the reader and just present what is the most important, what is the least important. I don't feel this decision. I don't feel this like it's like a bold presentation. Okay, these are 3 stories of the day. These are 5 stories of the day. Read it, or we have a bigger coverage of these stories. Like you try to present everything in the same flat, standard manner. Yeah, it's like a medium size of text, and everything looks kind of the same. Yeah, it shouldn't be like this. It has to be longer text, big text, spreads, like even multi-spread presentation of the topic, which is really important, and small, short stories. And readers should clearly see that this is very important and this is not important. I don't feel it when I go flip through your newspapers. Everything is kind of flat.
If you were to design for the internet, how would you redesign it?
Just to try to show the readers what is the editor's decision of the day. Yeah, what is really important and what is not. So again, show this hierarchy and written in your publications. And some guys like the Huffington Post are doing it. Yeah, and I can see more and more of this kind of presentation in American news. They're really not afraid of putting huge photo on the screen, and it's like she takes all the screen and you don't see anything else. Which for some guys working on the web will be like, oh my god.
Yes.
I don't show these 50 other stories on the
That's right.
front page.
Yes.
It's horrifying for them. But it's not. You have to be bold and brave and just put your main story on the screen and attract readers to read it, to go into this. So and this is actually newspaper thinking. Newspaper thinking of be like a tabloid thinking, just to be bold and show the main story on the front page. But you don't do it in print. That's really interesting. You're trying to copy the web. So your newspapers look more like a websites for me. Of course, you sometimes see big pictures, but this is not enough for me. And this kind of products will be in trouble on the market fighting with web. We'll be very soon in trouble because they don't have advantage of the print platform. They don't use the power of the print they have. They try to kind of make the same similar feel and look as the websites have. And the websites, of course, are faster and cheaper.
This is the business question, right?
Yeah.
So there's still money to be made from print.
Yeah,
you think?
but newspapers are sleeping. They are not dead when it comes to business concept, but they are dead when it comes to editorial concept. Yeah, it's like they really don't change. Like they're sleeping and they don't see what's going on around them. And they try to do the same as they did. When you look at these papers, actually, they were looking the same 10 years ago. Maybe the fonts were slightly different. Yeah, maybe the photos were smaller, but it's basically the same concept. But this concept of giving headline text and photo, you have it on your iPhone. Yeah, you have it on your web. You have it everywhere. Like this, online guys took it away from us. This is not ours anymore. So we have to come up with something better, with something that it reflects the power of printed media, something that these guys can't give.
Right, and as you've demonstrated, it can be quite powerful.
Yeah, it can be quite powerful.
Let's move again back to different rhythms that you spoke of, different rhythms in the design. Now, Western Europe, you see the newspaper industry in a sort of a death spiral because it cannot really reinvent itself. In Eastern and Central Europe, there are some legs left to the newspaper industry from your experience, right? But how do you see Southeast Asia, South America, you've mentioned that there's still potential in these parts of the world. But why do you think that is so? And could you comment a little bit on maybe South American newspaper design? Because I know that some interesting designs come out from there. And maybe what you know of Asian, Southeast Asian newspaper design. Sorry, it's kind of a long question. Sorry.
Okay, I still believe that Europe has some power, because the concept of newspapers in Europe is actually quite good when compared to America, especially because America's concept of newspapers is really like wrong, for 2012. Yeah, so I'm really not surprised that these guys are in trouble.
And you say it's wrong because
these products are basically made for advertisers.
Okay.
In Europe, the concept of, and also from design point of view, it's a huge gap between America and Europe.
Okay.
European concept of newspaper is much better in all the typography, layout, font. It's much modern product. So I still believe in this. Latin America has a huge potential, because these guys have some kind of design drive. When you see, there's a huge difference between Mexico and America. When you look at the Mexican newspapers, for instance, these guys are crazy. These guys really can do a very creative stuff when it comes to news. And you just cross the border, go to America, and it's everything is kind of like polite and not very bold. Yeah, so it's a huge difference. Yeah.
Now, if you look through our papers, and you have mentioned about designing being like having its own rhythm like Mozart.
Yeah.
So very quickly, if you just run through the papers that we have here, what music goes through your mind? If you could just say quickly.
Okay, so this is the music on the one tone, in my opinion. Yeah?
This is music
it's kind of like a not very structured music. Yeah, I don't see in this symphony. I don't see the beginning. I don't see the middle. And I don't see the end.
Okay.
Everything is more like the one slightly boring tone. The biggest problem is the hierarchy of the information and the rhythm of it. Like everything looks too similar. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to make more bold decisions, and what is the biggest news? You have to use spreads. Yeah. Like the biggest forms of presentation. You're using only like a medium and small forms of presentation of the news.
There's no musical climax to this thing.
Yeah, there's no this really like a huge orchestration in the beginning or in the middle. There's no rhythm break somewhere in the middle, like some big feature story with the great photos. Yeah, and there's no ending of the newspaper. It's slightly, so I would just focus on this crucial key moments in the newspaper and just make it different from the rest of the newspaper, so they can clearly see that, okay, this is the beginning, this is the middle, this is the end. And also the page composition. This is quite striking when I look at all your newspapers, News Straits, Times, Star, and even Financial Daily.
Okay.
Like when I look at the page composition of this typical page, when you see like 3-4 stories.
Yes.
For me, I don't really feel the hierarchy again. Like all the headlines are kind of similar. You don't use the bolder headlines for the main story. It's like, again, the editor is a bit afraid. Oh, I'm not sure if this is the main story. Maybe the other is better.
Okay.
It's kind of like the lack of the decision and the consequence and lack of the courage, in this.
Lack of courage, lack of decisions. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. If you had to put music to this that reflects Malaysian newspaper design, what music would you choose?
To reflect your newspapers?
Or if you had to identify the kind of music that we are trying to play.
There's some hope for this, but still it needs to be a second step for this. Yeah, second step, because you made some change on the surface. Yeah, but it requires a deeper change. Yeah, in the editorial structure, and probably also in the work in the newsrooms. Yeah, you have to be more communicate between editors and designers. It reminds me of a great story from Scandinavia. Our company has one newspaper which is like a tabloid newspaper, and some years ago they made a really great journalistic decision. There was a day when the war in Iraq started, and also some plane with a Swedish tourist crashed in Italy.
Right.
And they really, in the morning, they had a meeting and said, oh my God, what are we going to put on the front page? Yeah, this is like great general news, and this is like very important local news.
Right.
And you know what they did? They divided newspapers into half. So from the front, you have 12 pages about Iraq, and from the back, you had 12 pages about this plane crash. And just in the middle, you had a TV program.
Right.
That's the decision they make. No other news, because on this day, only those news were important. And during the day, on the daily basis, they make like 6 spreads with infographics, with photo, with interviews. This is the journalism we should do. This is the boldness and vision and creativeness
Right.
we need in
Right.
journalism.
Great. Well, I think we'll end it on that note. Well, thanks very much, Jacek.
Thank you very
That
much.
It was really good.
Thank you very much.